Hello and welcome to Inside St. Lucie, SLC TV's monthly government affairs show. I'm your host, Eric Gill, Public Information Officer for St. Lucie County. And on today's show, we're going to do a touch-and-go landing at the St. Lucie County International Airport and find out what's taking flight. My guests today are Airport Manager John Wyattrack and St. Lucie County Commission Chairman Todd Mowery. But before we meet our guests, here's some upcoming events and announcements from the Board of County Commissioners.
The St. Lucie Mets 2013 minor league baseball season is underway at Tradition Field through September 1st. Catch baseball's Stars of Tomorrow today at Tradition Field, located at 525 Northwest Peacock Boulevard in Port St. Lucie. For tickets and game times, call 772-871-2115 or visit www.mets.com. The St. Lucie County Cooperative Extension Office and the Oxbow Eco Center are offering 6 different summer camps that explore insects, nature, and art for ages ranging from 4 to 17. These camps take place in June, July, and August, and registration is still available. For a detailed list of camp themes, hours, and prices, visit www.oxboweco.com or call 772-785-5833. St. Lucie County's Parks, Recreation, and Facilities Department will be hosting a summer camp at the Lincoln Park Community Center located at 1306 Avenue M in Fort Pierce, June 10th through August 16th. Designed for ages 5 to 11, the Lincoln Park Community Center camp will feature a variety of activities including games, arts and crafts, and field trips. The cost is $65 per week with additional costs for field trips. To register, contact Terry Lane, Community Center Coordinator at 772-462-1788. St. Lucie County pools are open for the summer now through Labor Day. The county operates 3 pools: Lakewood Park in northern St. Lucie County, the Lincoln Park Pool in Fort Pierce, and Ravenswood Pool in Port St. Lucie. For details on hours, water safety lessons, and prices, visit stlucieco.gov/parks/aquatics.htm. Coffee with the Chairman, sponsored by the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce, is held on the 4th Friday of each month starting at 8:30 a.m. in the SLC TV studios, the County Administration Complex on the old Civic Center side, 2300 Virginia Avenue, Fort Pierce.
A reminder that the Board of County Commissioners' regular meetings are held at 6 p.m. on the first Tuesday and at 9 a.m. on the third Tuesday in the Commission Chambers of the Roger Portress Administration Annex, 2300 Virginia Avenue, Fort Pierce. The Board typically holds an informal meeting on the second Tuesday of each month at 9 a.m. in Conference Room 3. Now for the latest updates about all St. Lucie County Commission workshops, meetings, and events, be sure to visit our website at stlucieco.gov and click on our comprehensive calendar located in the center of the page just below the main feature article. And if you'd like to be added to our press release distribution list, send us an email at slctv@stlucieco.org and we'll be happy to include you. We're going to take a quick break. Before we do, we want to remind everyone about the importance of water safety, especially now that students are out of school for the summer. Hello and welcome back to Inside St. Lucie. I'm your host, Eric Gill, and I'm joined by St. Lucie County Commission Chairman Todd Mowery.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And John Wyattrack, the new St. Lucie County International Airport Manager. John, welcome aboard. Thanks for coming on the show for the first time. Now for the folks at home, if you could, just tell us a little bit about your background. I know you hail from the great state of North Carolina.
That's right, Eric. Much like yourself, I'm a Tar Heel born and raised. That being said, I have been in Florida for about 10 years now. And I've enjoyed every day except for the few of those 100-degree days in August.
And September's I think is always the worst month.
Yeah, it's a little bit too late for it to be that hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm coming here from North Carolina. I started flying at 14 and earned my private pilot's license at 16. So I've been in the aviation for a long time.
Okay.
When I was in high school, I worked for an air freight company at Raleigh-Durham Airport, and I did mechanics assistant type work. I learned a lot about the trade while working there. After graduating high school, I came down and went to Florida Institute of Technology, FIT, up in Melbourne. And there I studied airport management. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in airport management in 2008. Actually, before I even graduated, I was hired by the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, which is the organization that runs the airports up in Orlando. They run the executive airport as well as the international. I started out at the executive, and I did the security, the inspections, basically all the operations type duties. While I was there, I worked on my master's degree in commercial aviation and worked my way up the organization. Eventually got to the international airport and did the same type of, same scope of work there. And from the international airport, I'm coming down to St. Lucie County.
Right, so we're able to steal you from a big major international airport.
That's right.
Great.
And I come with a background. My background is both the general aviation, which is what we have down here, the small private type of operations, as well as the commercial aviation side that I learned while at the international airport. So I kind of have a mix of both backgrounds in aviation.
Sure. And Commissioner, you're a pilot yourself. We want to understand.
I am. Actually, it's neat when you look at backgrounds and where people have come from. Although I have to say, that little North Carolina accent doesn't normally come out in you, but boy, did it when it started off.
I had mentioned North Carolina. Yes, it does. If I got home for 3 days, it's bad. Yeah.
Hopefully we don't lose you.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, my grandfather was a pilot. My dad was a pilot. I started flying at a young age and picked up a private pilot's license and have flown for years. And in fact, when I was the city manager of Michigan, I was also the airport manager. And so it was kind of a neat position when they said it's a charter appointed position. It wasn't like, do you want to be? It was, you had to be. Yeah, sure. And in doing that, I had a ball of those. One quick funny anecdote I was telling John today, that I had a call from our deputy airport manager. We need you out at the airport. I went out to the airport, and there was a guy in the end of our brand new, recently repaved runway, sighting in his rifle because of the length of the runway. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. So it's always amazing to see what you may find in your role and your position as airport.
I think at our airport runway we have issues with wild hogs, so we may need the guy with the rifle to help take care of that.
Yeah, no sighting though. We're not going to do that.
Yeah, sure. Well, talk about just comparatively, how does our airport stack as a pilot to some of the other airports you've flown into?
You know, it's amazing when you look at the difference in some of the airports, and I think one of the neatest things that we love about our airport is the size of the airport. We have, almost 4,000 acres of area, and so from a size standpoint alone, it's massive in terms of its operation. In fact, I know John loves to talk about, who he would compare us to, and when you compare us to some of the other larger airports, we have everything that you would really want to have, and then some. But when you look at the typical things, we actually have everything from the Sheriff's Department. They have their air wing unit out at the airport. You look at the fact that we have our fire department with a ARF unit, ARFF, which as a result of that, they're actually able to fully respond to any aircraft fire disaster that may happen out at the airport. That's a phenomenal thing for us to have. The types of runways that we have. The fact that not only do we have 2 main runways at the airport, but we also have a sort of our practice runway that's been set up. And that training runway is phenomenal for the general aviation operations that you want to do. That way you can be in a training operation but not have to worry about any commercial flights or things that are going on at your main runway. Sure. And so that's a great thing. But I did most of my training at Flint International Airport, which had some similarities in some respects in terms of the layout. But what a phenomenal setup we have here for our airport. And John may have some things to add to that.
That's right. We have the air traffic control tower, fully FAA staffed. We have, as he said, the ARF unit. We have fully staffed customs with an ag lab, or the gateway to the Bahamas. Anybody can come and go as they please and clear customs at our airport. We have an Experimental Aircraft Association chapter, EAA, and they do a lot of great work with kids. They do kids flights on the weekends to introduce children to aviation. As he said, we have the Sheriff's Air Wing, and we have maintenance facilities from A to Z. You can bring in your small plane, get your engine worked on, get your inspections done, get a new paint job, get a new interior, or you can bring in your business jet. You can get the same types of things done. So A to Z, you can bring in your plane, get anything done you want. So it's a great airport, and that is a testament to the size. We have the size for all these different tenants to be there. And we'll continue to grow those tenants with the space we have. Sure.
Speaking of growing, we unveiled the new airport terminal wing, and we named it after Curtis King, longtime airport director at this, and was actually responsible for acquiring a lot of the land that we have out there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that facility and how it'll help the long-term goal of the airport.
I'll start. Mr. King was here for over 30 years as the airport director. So pretty much everything you see out there, he had touched in some way. So naming that building after him was fitting, I believe. I mean, we have Curtis King Boulevard, but also the terminal named after him. He kept the airport on the map during times when it may not have otherwise survived. So it was great. At our ceremony, we had his 92-year-old sister was kind enough to come out. He actually had his daughter fly all the way down from Missouri for that ceremony. So it was great to have his family there. Having a building like that with the the modern architecture and the new look, it's a great place to bring people in to allow us to better serve business interests. It's a meeting place. It's a face to the airport. It's basically like a facelift that the airport had not had since the 60s. So having that building is kind of like the next step to the future for our airport.
It's wonderful how we've been able to tie in the history, because from the moment you walk in, we have a lot of the paintings, pictures that have been set up that go all the way back to the beginning of our airport, back in 1927 when it began as an airport. And it's neat when you follow the history of our airport, as it began with this flying group, and then as it progressed through the military days, as the U.S. Navy took over and had a lot of operations obviously happening there, to today where we've now combined many of those worlds and have made such an amazing airport. We also have student artwork that's been set up within the terminal. And that student artwork actually currently is from Treasure Coast High School. Great displays of artwork. And then of really neat significance is the fact that working with the Backus Museum, they have provided what we're saying is on loan, but we're hoping it's going to become a permanent collection, are these magnificent prints that are in place there at the airport that were set up just as you're entering into the terminal area. The future of that building, though, is what I think is so exciting to me. And it's the fact that not only is it there today as a building that can be used, as John mentioned, that's a little bit of the heartbeat and puts a face on the airport, but in the future, it'll be set up so that you could have commercial operations with security screening. You can also have adjacent to that what's going on with the customs operation, and having a seamless flow so that way people are able to come in, get their tickets, to be able to, in one stop, literally go through in a very short time period security screening to fly to Boston. How neat is that, to think that you would be able to do that rather than having to wait in the lines down at Fort Lauderdale and going through those extensive lines that are there, but you'll be able to do that in a short time frame. And then take your flight as your luggage and everything clears through the security screening and moves on, and then you end up in Boston knowing that you had a phenomenal experience beginning at St. Lucie International Airport.
Sure. Now, how far down the road is that process to become a commercial? I know there's some folks that maybe live near the airport that don't want that type of expansion, but I think you got 150 or 170,000 people in Port St. Lucie who'd probably rather drive to Fort Pierce than Fort Lauderdale or West Palm.
Well, speaking of that, in fact, one of the things that we look at are what potential does our airport have? And I think when you begin to look at some of the statistics, we've spoken about this on some other areas lately, the fact that St. Lucie County currently has about 280,000 people. The next 17-year census growth shows us going from that to 431,000 people. That's a lot of people in this area. Compare that to Martin County. Their population is 142,000. They're expected to go to 149,000. It's only a 7,000 bump in that same time period. So when you look at the opportunity, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for a smaller commercial operation to begin, to start, and to be able to know that there's a sufficient base nearby to be able to help them provide for their economic well-being as well. The current operations, we have about 150,000 flight operations going on at our airport yearly today. And so tie that in with what we have with the FAA Tower, the fact that we have the customs, all of that provides for a great opportunity compared to a place such as Vero. Vero has about 200,000 flight operations a year happening at their facility, but they don't have the FAA Tower. Or they have the tower, but they don't have the customs facility that's set up. So as a result, they don't have the opportunity to grow in a manner that we do. And they're also much more constrained in terms of their operation because of the housing population that's been developed right around it. And those things. So we have that potential, but I think being sensitive to some of the history, if you go back and you look at even back in the 90s when there were some significant changes being talked about for the airport, and there were some groups that came along and said, you know what, as you talk about your growth, remember, St. Lucie Village is just to the east. Let's think about some of the environmental aspects. Let's talk about noise. And so that if things do change, that we've taken the time to really think through that process and to do it. So I think if you look at commercial operations, there are some exciting opportunities, whether it be for the charter or for a smaller commercial operation. But in some respects, to think that U.S. Air is going to say, hey, we have a flight in West Palm Beach and we have something, you know, in Orlando, are they really seeing an opportunity for that? May not necessarily be the case initially, but in some point in the future, we do at least have the potential from an acreage standpoint, from a community standpoint, to think about where we want to be for that airport.
Sure, and well, like you said too, with customs, I mean, it makes perfect sense. The Bahamas is only, you know, an hour away, hour and a half away by plane. So. And
it's important to note that it would start as limited commercial service. We're not going to go from where we are now to having 15 737s take off a day. It's going to start out with your smaller commuter type turboprops, probably not even jets, once or twice a day. And when you figure we're doing about 400 to 500 takeoffs and landings a day, adding one or two is not going to be a huge burden on the local community. So.
And I was going to say the runways alone, we have three runways, which we mentioned. We have an east-west runway that's about 6,400 feet. We have a second runway that's about 4,500 feet. And then our training runway is about 4,000 feet. But one of the things that limits us at this point is actually the weight capacity for that runway, for our main runway. So even though we have the length that's in place to be able to handle certain vehicles, we have some limitations that should we decide to go to that next level, the FAA with the DOT would come on board and we would talk about some of those things to see what could be done.
Well, can you guys stick around a little bit? We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about the FAA and sequestration and how that is, whether or not that's affecting us or not.
Great.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the St. Lucie County International Airport. Welcome back to Inside St. Lucie. I'm your host, Eric Gill. Once again, I'm joined by St. Lucie County Commission Chairman Todd Mowery and John Wyatrek. I'd reach across, our airport manager. Now, we were talking about the county airport and the history and everything, but one of the things that airports have been in the news a lot lately because of sequestration, and there's been talk. I know Martin County was nervous that they were going to shut down their FAA tower. We were never really affected, though, were we, John? Or
we were on the original list. The original list put out by the FAA was all towers that had less than 150 operations a year. They put on the original list. So there was about 249 towers on that list. We did make that list because we were just below. We were at 148,000 operations a year. And the subsequent lists that the FAA came out with, we were not on those lists. So the threat kind of went away. But like you said, Stewart was on a list, and as well as 14 other airports within the state. Since then, the FAA has solved the problem by moving money from one place to another to keep those towers open. But yeah, it was definitely a concern of ours. We saw a couple of furloughs where some of our tower personnel had to take a day off every 2 weeks, but that only happened for a few weeks, and then they fixed the problem.
Sure. And was there any impact to customs facility there as well?
Our customs did experience a change in hours that we're still trying to work out. The hours used to be from 8 to 6, 7 days a week, and currently they're 10 to 6. So it's not a big difference, but with the summer coming up, I would like to try to get those hours back so that people can come in earlier.
Yeah. Now, I haven't seen too many of these lately, but I used to always see those bumper stickers say, "I love airport noise." And it really is because the airports are job creators. I think, I don't have the number in front of me, but like 13,000 jobs at the airport?
No, about 1,300 jobs.
Okay.
1,300 jobs. The economic impact.
Added a zero there. Sorry about that.
13,000.
Roughly 13,000.
No, 13,000.
When you look at the economic impact, I think that's one of the things that people like to look at is what is actually happening. If it's there, is it helping? Is it a benefit to a community? Is it adding to your quality of life? I can remember as a kid coming down from where I grew up in Rochester, New York, and stopping in Fort Pierce as we would go over flying to the Bahamas. And I remember thinking, who would have thought that years later I'd find myself located here? But even back then, when I was younger, that was where we stopped, because this is where they had such a great airport set up from a customs standpoint. It was so easy to get in and get out, which is one of those neat things we talk about. St. Lucie County, is it open for business? If it is, how easy is it to do business? And I think that's been an aggressive push that the Board of County Commissioners as a whole, in working in conjunction with the Economic Development Council, has been trying to do We've been working with the Chamber of Commerce, the Visitors Bureau, and saying, how do we look at our areas and find out whether they're being a help, a hindrance? And in many respects, today, you know, the number of businesses on the airport alone, we're in probably 35 to 40 businesses that are located on or right at the edge of the airport, that are operating, that are utilizing the services, that are providing in ancillary support to that actual system. And from that, we're seeing some neat things that are taking place. Even the amount of money that's been spent to improve the airport as of late. You look at the terminal project, but with that as well as the customs, about $4.3 million that will be spent on that. You also have the runways, or the taxiways that we're doing, finishing taxiway Charlie right now, which airports, you get all the terminology.
Yeah,
so we
sure.
have, you know, A, B, and C taxiways, so that they, you know, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. And as a result, as they're being done, that's about a $3 million project for Charlie. And then back, was it, I guess about last year is when they finished the other Alpha Bravo, and that was again a couple $1 million project for that. So those were neat things. Just the practice runway that we had set up, the training runway, that was about $15.6 million that were spent on that we had received money from both the FAA and the FDOT to be able to do that, which was extensive for us. Now as we look at the airport, John mentioned the terminal and the changes that are taking place. We're getting ready to work on the customs building next door. But you have a lot of exciting things happening. We're getting ready to redo the whole entranceway as you go into the airport. You'll see new landscaping. The parking lot will be improved. There's some new signage programs that were put in place that will be done out along St. Lucie Boulevard. So that whole area is going to get the dressing and the look that will help give that sense of place so that you know you've arrived at some place that is that end destination.
Sure. And with a lot of those projects, the money didn't come directly from local tax dollars. They were FAA grants and DOT grants, so a lot of that, I mean, there may have been a local match, but it's money that came back into St. Lucie County.
This is part of the overall airport improvement program, federal system, where airports get money every year. So we're taking advantage of that money, and there are local matches, but the vast majority of those large amounts, you hear $15 million for a runway, the vast majority was a grant. So, and that's what all of our projects are, grant projects.
Yeah. And a lot of that's probably thanks to your trips to Washington and meeting with congressmen.
You know, we've done very well in working with the Washington, D.C. community to make sure that they know St. Lucie County is here and that we want to actively be a part of bringing tax dollars back for our community. And the match portion, even those, they've generally been, if anything, an 80-20 match. So that's been great for our community.
Sure. And you mentioned the Economic Development Council and the Chamber. One of the things that I thought was unique when I first got here was that the airport's actually a designated foreign trade zone, or FTZ zone, and that's got to be a nice tool to have in our box when we're recruiting businesses to relocate to the airport.
That's right. It's actually one of the largest foreign trade zones in the southeast United States, size-wise. As far as business-wise, we're in the growth stages where we're going to start attracting businesses in there. But it's a great advantage if you can move goods in and out and not have to pay taxes on them by using our foreign trade zone. That's an excellent incentive to bring companies here. It's just amazing, the potential. That's just one of the many things that this airport has that other airports just simply don't have.
Well, John, is there anything else about the airport that we didn't get to mention? I know there's an annual airport day where you guys host, welcome the community, kind of an open house, and you mentioned the experimental aircraft. They do free rides, and that's usually in October?
Yep, October is going to be the airport day. We don't have an exact date nailed down yet, but we're working on that. I just want to invite people out to see their airport. Come see the new terminal. Come visit one of the many businesses that are out there. You're going to learn something new and interesting, I guarantee that. My goal is to not only educate people that the airport's here, but also to make it something that the entire Treasure Coast can be proud of, because it really does have the potential to be that. The airport, it is amazing what's going to happen out there in the next few years. We're going to grow in an environmentally and economically smart way so as to serve the community better. So I'm excited about it.
Now, our airport got a lot of press because of Missionary Flights, which is an organization that operates out of our airport after the earthquakes in Haiti. They were running a lot of relief effort out of our airport, which gave us a lot of publicity, but them as well, well-deserved publicity for them. Tell us a little bit about that operation. Commissioner, I believe you were involved with helping with that relief effort, were you not?
Actually, I didn't help out with the Haiti relief at that time, although I did provide a year of service to Missionary Flights on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. I went out from 5:30 until 7 a.m. just helping with cargo and passengers for teams that were headed down to Haiti, and that would be whether it be for medical services. This was all post-hurricane aspects, but it wasn't what happened in that first month and a half time period. And it's really neat, though, to look at that operation and what it's been in terms of its overall service to our community. You have an operation that was down in West Palm Beach, providing a service for 40 years. They were not wanted at the airport in West Palm Beach. They were looking for a new home. They came up and they found an operation that gave them the ability to not only operate out of here, but something they didn't have before, which was the complete hangar space. They had people working on their airplanes out in the sun for all those years because they didn't have the operation that they now have at St. Lucie International Airport. And what's neat about it today is that they have developed so that they're on their fourth DC-3 that they're putting in place, which we'll let John talk about the airplanes a little bit on that. But these big planes that they've been able to put in there, they can put 3 of them in one hangar, and they have a second hangar that they've picked up. They can put the fourth one into that hangar. Plus, they can do all the work that they have to, which these planes, it's amazing, in the 40-plus years that they've been operating, they have not had one accident at all with their planes, which is really, it's not something that you ever want to have, but
Sure.
it's one, it talks about the testament of these guys and what they're able to do. Everybody that's employed there is actually a missionary. So they've gone out and they've raised support at a certain level, and then they are pilots and mechanics combined. They have to have both of those, and they're here working, living in our community. Phenomenal operation, and they were the largest relief organization flying supplies in. It's neat to see even what NASCAR did when they sent in a lot of their support planes and help as they were providing relief. Clearly a lot of members of our community got on board and were engaged in that aspect. Sure. They've been a phenomenal tenant and community partner here in St. Lucie County.
And John, I know that Airport Day, they usually have the DC set up so people can take tours on it. It's pretty, my kids thought it was cool to climb up into the plane.
They actually host the Airport Days in their hangar, so it's just a phenomenal organization, as the chairman said. It's fantastic. I could not be more proud to have them there. As you said, the aircraft they operate are DC-3s, which are the same aircraft they used in the Berlin airlift in World War II. So they've updated them a little bit with new engines, but they fly tons, literally tons of cargo and dozens of people every Tuesday and Thursday down to Haiti or Central America or wherever the current disaster may be. But like I said, you can't be more proud of that organization and the way they do things. It's nonprofit, obviously. It's all donations. He touched on it. The pilots are also mechanics, and they run the mailroom, and they run logistics. So it's just a great group of people. I love going in there and just chatting with them and seeing what they're up to now, because it's always something new and it's always something good.
Just a couple tidbits. Aviator College, we actually have a college located at the airport. In Aviator College, currently they provide associate's degrees in several areas. That's an exciting program, and they're on their way now to become a university. And so as they move through that, they'll allow them to be able to provide for a 4-year degree. And that degree, this will be a program, they want to compete with FIT or with Embry-Riddle, and those are 2 phenomenal programs that are in place. And so if we're in a setting where we're competing against the likes of that, that's a great plug for our community.
Absolutely. Changing
gears a little bit, it's interesting when people talk about the airport and they go out to it and they often say, oh, why are the planes doing what they're doing? One little tidbit, this is just a little free press on this. When you think about how planes land and why they go in the directions that they do for their takeoff and landing operations, they always land and take off into the wind. And I don't think a lot of people often realize that. They'll say, why is the plane always flying here or there? Well, they have patterns that they will generally fly. As well as with our training runway, it was set up in a manner to help take some of that training traffic off of our main runway and to push it further north and west so that it wouldn't cause some of those noise issues that you do see out over St. Lucie Village. But if the wind is blowing from the east, you're going to see that the planes are going to take off into the east, because that wind is actually what is creating the lift. As that wind goes over the wing, it creates the lift. And so if you have 10 knots of wind coming over your wing and you're sitting still, it's as if you're already doing 10 knots of speed down the runway. Whereas if the wind is pushing you from behind, that means you actually have to go that much faster. It's almost counterintuitive in terms of the mindset. So if you're out at the airport and you see the little wind sock, which is what they call the little orange, it looks like a big sock that's on a pole. When they see that wind sock and you look to see which direction the wind is, know that the planes are almost always taking off and landing into the wind, unless they're practicing some crosswind operations where the wind may be coming across the plane, and so they're practicing that.
And once again, we can thank the Wright brothers and Kitty Hawk for in this great state of North Carolina for helping us, provide us with flight. But John, you touched on one thing about the environment. and protecting the environment. And I know that a few years ago, the county airport had won some national awards and recognition for its scrub jay and gopher tortoise program, mitigation program. So, you know, that always is key, that we are, even though we're expanding, we're always looking out for the environment.
Exactly. Anytime we have any kind of a project, we do an environmental assessment. And those are all inclusive. And when we build something new, like when we built a new runway, we have to set aside mitigation land so as to provide a habitat that we got rid of one habitat here, we need to provide another one over here. We do gopher tortoise relocation services, just like any company looking to build. And yeah, the airport has a very good history of environmental protection, so I'm proud of that, and I'm going to continue that because it's important.
Ties back into the board's mission of sustainability.
Exactly.
It is, and you know, interesting things about our airport. These are things that people may not even realize. We have been able to save money even on mowing. And from a mowing saving standpoint, you think, oh, how are you doing that? Well, we don't have goats out there.
As you say, I didn't know we had goats. But
we don't have goats out at the airport. But what we do have is we have a program that's been set up. It's with Briggs & Stratton.
Yes, sir.
And so they actually will be out at the airport testing their mowers. And I'm talking about hand push mowers as well as their riding lawn mowers. And they mow a lot of the airport property for us for free under this contract that's been set up, so they're able to get the hours on the mowers that they need to test the equipment. And so it's bizarre because there are days we'll get calls from people. We saw about 8 riding lawnmowers going down the road, and one was towing a porta potty behind him. And that's what they do. They tow a porta potty for the crew, and they will bring everything with them. They set up there and mow our taxiway areas and even along St. Lucie Boulevard. They're out mowing in that area, so it's really neat to see the arrangements that we've been able to set up.
Even I learned something today. So
you did.
Thanks for coming on the show,
guys.
guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We appreciate your time. We'll hope to have you on again soon. Don't go anywhere. We'll take a quick break and wrap up the show when we come back. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Inside St. Lucie, and we hope you'll tune in again next month. If you have topics or subjects you'd like to see covered here on the program relating to St. Lucie County government, give us a call at 772-462-6421 or send us an email at slctv@stlucieco.org. And if you'd like to see previously aired episodes of this or other SLC TV programs, visit our website at stlucieco.gov/slctv and click on the video on demand link. For myself and the staff here, I'm Eric Gill. Thanks for watching.